Hello, friends, and welcome to Navigating China. I am Nikita, or should I say Dr. Nikita in the making. Hi, friends, and welcome to the very first episode of Navigating China, and I am your host, Nikita Makwana. Today's episode is quite special. You know what? Because we do not despise the small beginnings, and I want to give you a special thanks for tuning in. Today's episode, I just want to focus on introduction. Over time, people have been asking me a couple of questions that I want to answer in today's podcast. And some of the things that I'm going to talk about really are based on what I've always wanted to talk about, or what I felt people that are connecting with me on the social media platform needs to know. So I kept it a little bit old school by jotting the key things on my tab. I didn't want to get carried away by the conversation and end up talking about things that I didn't want to talk about. Okay, or talk more than I wanted to talk. Okay, so I just jotted things down that are so key, and I'm going to share them with you. One of the questions that I get online is, you have been teaching Chinese, and how long did it take you? It has been over 10 years of this journey of learning about China, or learning China studies, if I may put it that way. So I got my bachelor's degree in Chinese studies from the University of Botswana. I studied my master's degree in Beijing in teaching Chinese to speakers of other languages. And I must say, that was the immersion period for me when it comes to the language aspect of China. So I immersed myself in the language while I was doing my master's degree. And the reason why I actually ended up going for this particular master's degree was the University of Botswana, or the program offered by the University of Botswana, Chinese Studies. It gave me a broader perspective about China. So it discussed different aspects of China, like China politics, economics, culture, all you can think about China. So when I completed, I felt there is one aspect I wanted to dive deep into, and that was the language. So that's why I went to study for my master's degree in Beijing. So that is, I chose China for my master's degree because it felt so right to study Chinese language in China, or advancing my Chinese in China. That was the number one reason I went for that. I also did my PhD, or I'm currently pursuing my PhD in China studies with law focus at Jinan University. I had just started last year, September 2024, just in case you're gonna see this after a couple of years, because I know you guys someone is gonna see this after some years. So I started in 2024. I'm 1 year in. I'm headed towards the end of the second semester, or the first year of my studies. Yay! Here's the key thing that I always notice when people ask me the question, how did you start? Many people are looking for a defining moment, one event, one defining moment for me to end up choosing to pursue a career in this field, or to pursue my studies in this field. But to be honest with you, I don't have one defining moment. It's not like a fairy tale where you're like, oh, I got into modeling because I got to see someone one day, a pretty tall lady walking, and I said I want to be like that, or I want to do that. For me, it was different. I had different encounters with the Chinese people back in Kasani, where I originally come from. And I was just curious about the language that they speak. But that time, I did not really give it much thought. While I was at senior school, I also saw them because they were constructing the Nata Senior Secondary School. That is the school that I went to. And sometimes they would try to strike conversations with the students. I would not hear whatever that they were saying. So I have always been curious about the language, the Chinese people. I thought to myself, how would it be if I just get to hear what they're saying? But it was just a thought, okay? It was just a thought until now, when I went to uni and I took that big catalog, is it a brochure? of UB, and I saw many courses. I did not know, or I was not sure what exactly I wanted to study. And before that, I had actually applied for or two other institutions within my country, including Lim Kong Queen. I even had an admission to study my bachelor's in entrepreneurship. But for some reason, while I was browsing through that brochure from UB, I got intrigued into the language part. There was French, there was Chinese, and I was like, let me go for something that I don't know. And this lady, while I was going through the brochure, she said, people who study Chinese are usually taken to China for a year or so. I'm like, right there, we are going. So that's how I ended up choosing Chinese. So you see, it's quite complex to pin it to one moment or one defining moment. It's a series of moments. And maybe it's destiny. I think maybe it's destiny. So that's how the journey had begun. And over the past 5 years or so, my work has been on the China studies field. So I have been doing the work from translation to consulting as a cross-cultural or an intercultural consultant, strategist for people who want to work with China as well as other countries. I've also been in the classroom as a lecturer, as a teaching instructor. I've worked with BUST, still am, and also the University of Botswana and the Confucius Institute at the University of Botswana. I've also set my foot at the embassy in Beijing a couple of years ago as a consultant or as an intercultural consultant. I'll say as a freelancer or on a volunteer basis. And that is one of the moments that I look back to right now. I'm talking about the embassy moment where I feel more grateful for that opportunity because I did not have any experience at that time. But the then ambassador had me speaking Chinese while we were selling Botswana crafts at the Beijing Olympic Stadium at one event. I forgot the name of the event. And he said he wants to talk to me or to see the possibilities of working with me. He eventually invited me, to do some translation, to ask me the right way of interacting with the Chinese. May his soul rest in peace. He believed in my skill and he gave me a shot when I did not have that work experience. So there was a lot of moments during that interactions where I embarrassed myself a lot. While I was supposed to translate something and then I did not understand what was being said. So a lot of embarrassing moments, but when I reflect to that today, I feel so grateful that someone believed me. Believed in me at that time. They saw the potential. They kept on encouraging me. I'm so grateful for that opportunity. Okay, so let me see. I want to see what is on my tab because I think I already covered my journey, where it began. Did I talk about why I decided to study in China? Yes, the language aspect, yeah. And then also, how did China become my focus? There was no defining moment, okay, but I ended up finding myself in this field. So what did I study? I shared that. I moved from Botswana to Beijing, now in Guangzhou. Who or what influenced your passion for China? Guys, no defining moments. Okay, let me go for a short break and I'm gonna do that over a cup of green tea. See you in a moment. The other day, I posted on my social media and I asked people, hey, I'm going to shoot my very first episode. And I got a couple of interesting questions. They were quite personal, but I did not expect, those questions. However, I do appreciate them. When you ask people to ask questions, especially there's a part where I said, you can ask something that you've always wanted to ask me or that you've been curious about. So someone took the moment and they asked. So I want to give special shout out to Ongs D, as your name appears on social media. You asked me a couple of questions, but I'm going to answer just a couple of them. The first one was, I have moved to China, and that meant my husband and my family is in Botswana, or they're still living in Botswana. How did my husband take it? How did he feel about that decision? I wish he was here so that when I give the response, he's also, I mean, besides me. But here is the thing. I did not decide to come to China by myself. When we make decisions whether to achieve family, to achieve our goals as a family, or when we make those decisions to achieve our goals at an individual level, we communicate and then we look at, is this thing possible for us right now? How is this thing going to affect us at the moment? Can we prioritize this or it can wait? Let me highlight that there was a time that I wanted to come to China years back. Oh, okay. There was a time that I wanted to come to China a bit earlier. That did not happen because we felt the timing was not right. But when we felt this is the right time for me to make that transition, my husband and I prayed about it. He blessed me for me to be able to come here. So ladies, don't just get up in the morning and then you go. We are Christians, we are believers, and we don't do anything outside God's plan for our lives. So we pray about things that we want to achieve. That includes the trip that I have made to come to China. You have seen my husband has been here as well, just to experience China, and this journey has been a blessing. The reason why I want to highlight this is because I don't want you to see me online and say, Nikita went to China, or this couple, they are managing to do 1, 2, 3. I want you to understand that it's important to have agreement in the family. It's important for both of you to discuss your plans and make sure that the two of you are agreeing, okay? Agreement brings about God's blessing within your family. So don't risk to just wake up in the morning and say, I want to do this without consulting your partner. There could be moments where they don't feel comfortable about it at that time. Give them the grace. My husband didn't just say, oh yeah, you can go. He calculated the risks. Is it the right thing? And I was also patient with him to say, okay, I this is what I want to do. And I wanted to give him time to think about it, to pray about it, and to let me know how he feels about it. And then we collectively decide on it. I also want to highlight that prior to me coming here or making this decision, this is something that we have talked about during our dating stage when we were together. One of the things that I've always told him that I wanted to do was to go for my PhD. So it's a dream that we both knew I had, and it's a dream that he promised he would support when that time comes, and when we believe that is God's time for us to be able to do that. Okay, the other thing that you, okay, let me take a look at the question. Oh, the other thing that you asked me was my age. Should I answer that? I think I already have on my social media, but I'm basically saying goodbye to my 20s. How do I manage the long distance relationship or marriage? Let me say it's not an easy thing, but you have to make sure you are in sync. And beyond anything else, the fear of God is what keeps the both of you grounded. Now, I can't just give you like ordinary advice from the clouds or from, I don't know, from the air. The word of God is the standard for our life. So in as much as I'm in this platform, I'm sharing this from as an expert, I'm also a Christian, and really I cannot say we are managing by ourselves. God is helping us. It's a tough journey. It comes with its own moments of shakes, right? But we make God's word a standard for our lives. We keep communication, we keep updating each other of every little thing that we have. That is also the case with any other family member of us. Okay, so Ongs D, thank you so much for the question, and let us take a look at my experience as a young African living in China. Someone said to me, if you met your younger self, what is it that you're going to tell them about China? And I can only share my personal experiences, right? So what has life been for me in China as an African? And I can say it has been full of different kinds of experiences, the good, the amazing, and also those low moments. So it has been a balance of both. Let's start with my first impression of China. Before I came to China, I had a perception about China based on what I had seen on the media. And one of the things that I knew is China is popular for manufacturing. So when you come here, you think the first thing that you're going to see is the manufacturing hub everywhere. And you anticipate a level of development, but I was quite impressed to see how much developed China is. So I first came here to attend the Chinese Bridge. It's a competition, and I had participated in that competition hosted by the Confucius Institute in my country. So I came here to observe the competition, which was a great start for me because in that period, I also got to meet people that were so passionate about China or had already kickstarted their journey with learning about China, the language, and more. So we had a shared experience, and it was just so amazing to see their perception and also to see their reaction. One of the common things that I noticed at that time is those who were coming to China for the first time, everyone or each one of us had their own perception about China. And most of us were really impressed, especially when it comes to the development. And then the challenges that I had faced, oh my God. Remember, I had studied China or about China for 4 years, including the language. But that time I was not so fluent in the Chinese language. So it was quite challenging to navigate. Fortunately, we had teachers that were helping us to navigate the place. But when I came back now for the second time to study my master's degree within the same year, the real struggle started. The real struggle started because when I was walking through the streets, I found out that many Chinese people don't speak English, and those who actually do are quite shy to express themselves in English. So I just found or noticed how much gap I had in terms of what I thought I knew or how fluent I thought I was with what is actually happening on the surface. So that is one of the key challenges. And then the cultural aspect, of course. I came from an environment, Botswana, where we greet people. When you see people on the streets, wa dumedisa, who dumedisa, it means to greet in my native language, Setswana. So I noticed that in some places, people will find me and no one says hi, or people just pass you on the street, nobody says hi. It makes sense. I mean, it's China, it's not my country. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of people who would say hi to me, but sometimes someone will just come sit next to you, not say hi. It's like everybody's living their lives. And I just got to realize how much the environment and the culture that I come from, everybody's into everybody else's business, if I may politely put it that way. Like, you always know what is happening with your neighbor, right? But in China, I was just surprised to recognize that no, everybody's actually minding their own business. The other thing was the thing of drinking hot water the entire day and not having, you would see that your friends, your colleagues, they are drinking hot water throughout the day. And where I come from, I want water from the fridge. So now I'm used to it. I can actually drink tea the whole day. I take warm water. I now prefer warm water, and I appreciate the benefits that comes with that. Okay, so let us get to the next question. How do people react to you as a foreigner? I mean, as a foreign woman from Africa? Let me tell you something. Living in China made me feel like I'm a model, like a top model or a top star. Because people will stare at me, people will take pictures of me, something that where I come from and other parts of the world we find very, very unethical. But I notice in China, people take pictures of everything. They can take a picture of fingers, they take a picture of strangers. So even up to now, when I'm walking down the streets, people are always staring at me. People are always fascinated by my unique hair. People are always fascinated by my skin color. And people are also fascinated by my character, my demeanor. It's quite different. I'm a bubbly person, I think. Yeah, I'm a bubbly person. Even back home, people know I'm a bubbly person. So that kind of a character here in China can be a little bit extra. Yes, can be a little bit extra. So any cultural adjustments or funny experiences, I've talked about that. From I prefer drinking warm water or hot tea. Yeah, let us go to an important aspect: your work in China space. What work have you done related to China, teaching, research, business? Well, I have not worked in China per se, but I've worked with people living in China. As a matter of fact, I run businesses that are connected to China. The first one is the International Language Hub. It's a language school, so I teach Chinese there. I also teach English and other languages that we have recently introduced. So you realize that in those programs that we offer, we do have the students from China studying at International Language Hub. Secondly, I have been into retail, like buying things from China and selling them back home. In terms of research, definitely my research focus at the moment is on China, Africa, particularly Botswana. And I shared initially my experience of working at the embassy on a volunteer basis with the former and the late Ambassador Palai, doing the intercultural work. It was over a short period of time, but it was one of the very special moments of my life and one of the things that made me believe in what I do right now more. Let us get to the purpose behind this podcast. Why did I decide to host Navigating China podcast? Let me start here. I think China is complex, and a lot of people today are focused on China, what China does. Everybody is looking at China. Whether they're looking at it from the place of admiration, or they're looking at it from a place of a threat, or they're looking at it from a place of, oh, everybody's talking about you, I might as well looking at you. So China's landscape is quite complex, and I know that it is often discussed from a political point of view, but when it comes to an average person who just wants to relate with an average Chinese person, I still think there is not enough information out there. There isn't enough information out there. So I hope one of the things I'll be able to do through this podcast is to share my personal experiences and things that I know as an expert in the field that will help you to navigate China even better. So that is that. So this podcast is for you if you're a professional working with China, looking forward to work with the Chinese people, or your Chinese counterparts. If you're a student, you're a researcher, you're an African, you're an entrepreneur, you're a policymaker, you're a governor, you just have this massive interest in China, this podcast is for you. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button, follow, share with your friends, because I'm going to share a lot about China in this platform. Another thing that I'm going to be covering in this platform is real life experiences of Africans who are currently living in China and those who have lived in China. I'm also going to talk about different business ventures and cultural misunderstandings that people have about China. I'm going to be pulling those from my personal experience, the experiences of the people that I know, or the experience of others, as well as what I understand as an expert and a leading voice in this field. I also look forward to having conversations with other people, whether it's experts in the China studies field, people living in China that have had an experience, or people that have had an exposure to China. So I would say this is a podcast on education and podcast on experience and helping you to navigate China. I also look forward to learning a lot from my audience. There is always something that people put in the comment section, and sometimes it's things that I'm very much aware that I would like, maybe some of the things I won't like, but at the end of the day, it's a learning journey. Let me highlight this. I've always been hesitant when it comes to launching this kind of podcast for many reasons. The first one is, as I have shared earlier, China is a hot topic because of its economic rise and its position as a global giant. Everybody always has an opinion on China, whether it's coming from a place of loving China, being a friend of China, or a place of intimidation, whatever that you call it. So people usually have different opinions, and people always look out for people who talk about China. And for some reason, I've always, shied away from having these discussions. But I've reached a point where I'm like, I might as well have these discussions because I'm already having discussions about China as a lecturer. I have students that I teach across in my country, and those who are attending my lessons online. I teach from the Chinese language to Chinese history, Chinese politics, economics, and recently I've been venturing into law. I have shared with you that my PhD's focus is on law. Okay, so there are many things that I talk about on a daily basis, and I thought to myself, why not just turn the camera, and instead of touching hundreds of people, I might as well touch hundreds of thousands, all the way to millions, if not billions. Who knows how far this platform is going to go? I want you to know that this podcast isn't just about my personal story about China. It's also about how we as Africans, as experts living in China, as professionals, as learners, as policymakers, as governors, can navigate China. And I hope that through this platform, I'm able to give you information that transcends the news that you see every day. I hope that in this platform, I'm able to share with you real life stories of real people about the real China. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in today's episode. Feel free to leave me a comment. I would actually appreciate for you to leave me a comment, to give this video a thumbnail, to share it with your friends. Give your girl some love, some support. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Navigating China. Until next time. Bye.